Another thing I wanted to quickly look at was PAX top 8 regional Purrely deck list. So we're gonna do that. I'm personally very interested in Purrely. I like Purrely a lot. I love the concept of Purrely. I'm not a big fan of like unaffected towers monsters as a kind of like a win condition, but with Purrely, I think it's a little bit different because the Purrely rank 7 loses the ability of being unaffected after a while, but I just like the rest of the deck, right? I like that the deck can play a lot of non-engine / hand traps. I'm a fan of that. I like that the deck has pretty strong grind game. I like that the deck has a lot of starter cards, like with all those quick plays. I like Purrely basically in all aspects except for the fact that it has a towers monster. But out of the decks in the current format, to me, Purrely feels like one of the coolest. I like Purrely. I'm very interested in Purrely. I'm not sure if it's good enough yet in the current environment. But I'm interested to see how Pac made it work because he top 8'd a regional with it. So let's look at that. Oh, here we go. Let me turn off the music and
Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome.
He on purpose did not do the lithium thing anymore. We called him out on that.
Showing you my top 8 finish, my Purrely deck profile that I played at the Casco Regional. I went X1, and
I think Cash is still the best. You might be right. You might be right about that, David. I think Cash is still a very, very solid choice. I just don't really love playing Cash Tira myself. I don't know if that makes sense. I've talked about this before in the past, that there's certain decks that I think are very good, but just not ideal for me personally, because when I'm playing a deck like Cash Tira, I feel like it's very much not always in my control if I'm winning a game or not, because it depends on which type of non-engine my opponent plays and draws. So I'm not saying Cash Tira is a bad deck, I just don't personally like playing the deck myself.
Or 4th place? I think 5th. Yeah, 5th place.
If Pac doesn't have all the cards collector's rare or higher, I'm sad. I'm gonna be honest, the odds that we see a card that is available in collector's rare not in collector's rare in this video is very low. I'd be very disappointed.
Defeated, but I lost one of my games because I sided in Gamma but forgot to side in Driver. Like, I deserve to lose that game, but I honestly thought I could have won that game if I just didn't forget to side in Driver. I'm like a bozo. So in hindsight, 2020, I think I could have won the regional, but I decided to troll, you know. So let me, you know, I was playing really fast. I'm trying to like get the games going, so I sided a little too quickly. But anyways,
Pac does play. Whenever I see him play, he plays exceptionally fast, which sometimes I think can be a good thing, sometimes it can be a bad thing.
Let's get into the profile, but before we do, huge shout outs to Sam, Team Samurai X1. You can check out txs1.com and use Pac10 for 10% off.
OER, thank you for the 11 months. What do you mean 10k branded deck profile?
For the main deck sleeves that I use, which is Supreme Pros. But anyways, let's get into the profile and jump right into it. All right, so I'm gonna be going off with the engine first, and then we'll get into like my non-engine. So I guess for the engine cards, I played
10k as in price.
Yellow Cat, aka Purrely, triple. Some people decided to play 2, but I'll tell you why.
I don't think it's 10k. If you max rarity branded, I don't think it's 10k.
2. The main reason is because this deck, when you go first, have 6 quick play spells in the form of Delicious and Happy that requires a monster on the field. You don't want to normal summon a hand trap and activate Delicious to play the game. You rather normal summon a black cat or a yellow cat to play the game. So like that's like the main reason why I don't want to play any less than 3 of each. And to be quite honest, I think the yellow one is actually better than the black one because the yellow one allows you to play around DD Crow, and it's not once per turn, so it plays around Ogre as well. Like this card is actually the best one if you actually tested the deck a lot. And
Okay. A few things here. I agree with playing 6 of them. Also, how the hell is that one yellow? But anyways, I agree on playing full 6 of those because I think you really want to just have one of them in your hand because you can just, it's a normal summon that's probably just going to be a +1 for you. Like there's no reason not to have not to make use of your normal summon like in this deck. Yes, you can summon them from your deck most of the time, but it's just very good to start with a normal summon. I think that's good. I don't think that any of them is better than the other. Generally, I think both of them have their pros and cons. Obviously, like Purrely Lily's effect is better on summon. Purrely Lily's effect is better than Purrely's effect. How do we call them? Do we call them white and black? I think white and black is the easiest distinction. Okay, the white one on summon doesn't add you whichever card you want. It just adds you a if you hit, it adds you a card from the top 3 of your deck to your hand, which is, it can be good, but it can miss. The other one adds you, the black one adds you whichever you want. So that's better. But the fact that the white one is not once per turn is really, really important because that means that your hands basically, you don't have to stop after a certain point. After a certain hand trap, you always have the option to continue. If you just have another quick play to summon, you can still maintain your flow of extenders and whatnot. Like, and the chance that you hit are relatively high. I mean, I've been there before. I've missed a bunch of times with the white one. I think that is one of the biggest reasons to play a bigger Purrely count, to just consistently hit with the white one, right? It's like, I think that's one of the main reasons to play like the field spell, to play the trap card, maybe even in multiples, just because sometimes you just get it for free if you hit with the white one, right? You summon a bunch of the white Purrely and you just hit the thing for free and it's just good. But in general, I don't think either of them is better than the other. I think they both have their very unique advantages and disadvantages, which is why you obviously play both. I mean, you whenever you activate a quick play spell, you have both options, and that's good.
And obviously, the black one is really powerful too. But people think that the best way to hand trap the deck is just stop on black. But I play around that by focusing a lot of my plays actually around yellow. So
I find it very hard to tell where to exactly hand trap Purrely. If you want to make sure they don't get to the trap card, like if you're most worried about them adding the trap card and doing the whole, draw multiple cards in your standby and then rank up into the rank 7 and then draw more cards, if you're really worried about that, then you should probably hand trap the black one, right? Because that is the only guaranteed way to find the trap card currently, before the new broken rank 2 XYZ that we get soon. Hand trapping the black one is the most likely to stop them from getting to the trap card if the standard build only runs one of the trap card. So that's good. But because you have basically the white one not once per turn, there's never a guarantee that you're gonna stop them from playing if you do that. But that's only for, like, I think Valor, Imperm, Ash are probably best used on the black one.
Yeah, I call them Yellow and Black Cat. Just bear with me, guys. I'm like really bad at pronouncing these names. So, 6 monsters. To continue off the engine, 3 My Friend.
Okay, Collector's Rare. By the way, that was also Collector's Rare. That's also Collector's Rare. Okay.
3 Happy, 3 Delicious, 3 Sleepy. Max out all of them. You want to see them. When you go second, all these cards are insane because they're all live. But when you go first, only 6 of them can be used in the draw phase. So that's why, like, what do you call it? That's why, like, but you still want to max these out because having these max out allows you to.
Isn't Ghost Ogre supposed to be nuts against this deck? Ghost Ogre is solid, definitely. Ghost Ogre is very solid. I don't think it's nuts in the sense that it completely wins you the game. It can win you the game in certain spots, but it's a very good card. They have outs to it. There's one of the memories. I don't remember exactly which one it is, but one of the memories protects from card destruction, and they can also play around it with certain hands. So in the right spots, Ogre can be really good. You can hit them in multiple spots. Like Ghost Ogre is good on the continuous spell, because obviously they don't get their search. It's good there. It's also okay if they try to rank up if you're into another XYZ because I'm pretty sure if you Ghost Ogre the black or the white main deck monster, when they try to rank up by card effect, I'm pretty sure they don't get to rank up because they have to summon the XYZ with it themselves as material. If you Ogre them, I don't think you get the XYZ. So that is okay. But it can also be okay to keep Ghost Ogre until your turn to Ghost Ogre when they try to draw cards in your standby phase. But that only works if they don't have the trap card. Because with the trap card, if you try to Ghost Ogre them, if they chain the trap card and they rank up into a different one, then the Ghost Ogre doesn't destroy anything. But yeah, there's multiple spots where you can theoretically Ghost Ogre them. Coon5, thank you for the 8 months. Welcome back. Appreciate you.
Hit with yellow more consistently, because I've seen that people decide to cut these ratios down. Like they play like 2 Sleepy Memory or like 2 Happy, and I don't think that's...
They don't have the trap. Wouldn't they just make Noir? If they can, yeah, but then it doesn't work, yeah.
Good, because you're gonna miss off yellow, and you want to hit off yellows as consistently as possible, so you max them out. Okay, and then just 1 trap. Yep. All right, so
no field spell. Interesting to note.
So that's pretty much the main deck,
which also means no Rainbow
cards.
Bridge.
As you can see, this is 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 22 cards, which leaves you
field spell overrated. It's tough. The field spell, I think, is not overrated. I think it's a good card, but you don't necessarily... It's not a staple, right? You can definitely make the decision to try and fit more non-engine rather than the field spell. The field spell is good because it gives you follow-up if you can get to it. If they out your stuff, the field spell gives you follow-up. And it also gives you more draws because it attaches in the end phase, right? Another Sleepy Memory. It is a very good card, but it's only a good card if you can already play, right? If you can't already play, or like if your opponent goes first and set up a board that you can't stop, then the field spell doesn't really do anything unless it gives you targeting protection, I think, which matters in some matchups. Like it can definitely be good, like against a Rysard when you go second, activate the field spell. I think, you know, they might just like not be able to out your monsters, and you might be able to get to like a big Zeus or something because of it. So that's cool. But besides that, it's not really that great going second. But yeah, I think it's an okay card. It's debatable. You can play it. It only protects the XYZs, yeah, but that's okay. That's okay. I mean, they can banish one of your monsters, but you have multiple ways to get monsters onto the field, right? They basically, if they have to always hit your monsters already, your main deck monsters, that's a good thing for you, because then you can rank up and then do whatever you want after.
So, let's go into the non-engine slots. So I play 3 Droll and Lockbird.
Mm-hmm.
3 Ghost Ogre.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
I play triple Kurikara.
I like that.
Double Tactics.
Mm-hmm.
Double Book of Moon.
I don't like Book of Moon.
And triple Impermanence.
That's fine.
And then I
also don't know. Actually, I don't like Impermanence in this deck. I think in this deck, you want to have cards like Effect Veiler or Ghost Mourner over Imperm because you can draw them on your opponent's turn. I don't agree with Impermanence.
1 Brown, 1 Beast. So let's go, I guess.
That's a lot of money right here, by the way.
Down from top to bottom, the reason why I decided to play each card. So I think Droll is the most impactful hand trap.
But Imperm comes ulti. Well, Mourner comes Starlight, and Veiler also comes ulti. Also, I'm pretty sure Veiler ulti is worth more than Imperm. So by that logic pack, you have to use Veiler over Imperm for multiple reasons.
So as a result, I want to main deck it, and I want to draw into it. So that's why this is at 3. Ogre was there because I expected a lot of super heavy in my regional, and Ogre is really good on Wakashi.
Veiler also has a Starlight, yeah, if you really want to.
Is also really good to draw off your engine to beat your opponent's My Friend, and it's really good into Kashtira Birth game 1 as well. because that's usually their follow-up. After you crack their board, that's usually their main follow-up. Triple Kurikara, I'll explain after. So double tactics, because everyone's playing like 15-ish hand traps in the main deck now. So I think tactics is like insane as a result. So that's why I decided to play.
I think tactics is crazy in this deck, quite frankly. Or like in general in this format, it's like everyone is slapping 9 to 12 to 15 hand traps onto the table in every single deck profile. Like tactics should just be insane.
I was playing triple tactics, triple Book of Moon, but I decided to cut one tactics, one Book of Moon for one Brow and one Shuttle Beast. And the main reason is the main reason why I played.
I would just not play the books. And that seems fine. You just have more slots for other stuff. I don't see what book does.
Just these two and no
deck.
Other discard, is because I actually don't think the discard engine is that good.
What's CP? CP is Champions Pack. That is it's basically the old version of the OTS pack. The first version was called Tournament Pack. Then we had Champion Pack. Then we had, what was first? Turbo Pack, I think. And then Astral Pack. And then it was OTS Pack. Turbo Pack was first. Then we had Astral Pack. And then it was named OTS Pack. And ever since then, it's called OTS Pack. I don't think they're going to change the name. I don't think they plan on changing the name anymore.
I think the best ones to play are the ones that draws you cards, because as you draw more cards in the draw phase,
the Book of Moon is expensive. Yeah, the Book of Moon is like $400 or $500. I don't know exactly. Maybe even more than that. The Book of Moon is crazy. I think it's like, actually we can check just out of curiosity. Hold up. Honestly though, if you're a modern player, if you play a modern deck, just get ultis. If you're trying to look like the ultis look better, unless you're looking for that retro look. The ulti Book of Moons look very very good. Book of Moon. Champion Pack 1, Book of Moon. 350. The first near mint copy. It's 350 or one Book of Moon in super rare.
In your hand, and I wish I could play two beasts, but
is it bad? I like the speed dual secret Book of Moons. I mean, whatever you prefer. Honestly, I think playing high rare cards like this is a luxury, like complete luxury, and no one should ever feel forced to do this. In this type of capacity, like if you have the money to spend and it makes you happy, then go for it. If you don't, then just play whatever else you think looks good. It's all fine. I personally don't have any of those high rare cards. I have rare Drone and Lockbird, common Ghost Ogres, regular as Kurikara, super rare Imperms. I play them and they do the same thing. If you have the money and you want to spend it, go for it. But it's, yeah.
I don't want the chance of drawing double beast, so I decided to play 1-1. Beast is better because it chain blocks, and Brow is.
I personally think this is how it should be. I don't want to ramble like this again, but this is how it should be. All of those cards have very cheap alternatives. If you want to spend all your life savings on Yu-Gi-Oh, you can, but you don't have to, right? And that's, I think, the perfect way to do it. I hate the fact that they release cards like that and only make them secret rare, and yeah, I think we should just have this more often, like common or rare versions of cards, and then another fancy ultimate or starlight, and so everyone gets to choose. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Kurikara is cheap, only 45 euros. I mean, hey, no one here can complain about Kurikara. I told you Kurikara was going to be a good card when that card was $10. We opened a case of Power of the Elements on stream. I pulled Kurikara. I looked up the price. I said $10. I'm not going to sell it. I'm going to keep it. That's going to be a good card eventually. Everyone who was here that day cannot complain because I told you that card had potential. Only because it was not good at that exact moment when the set released, that did not mean that card was never going to be good. I told you first second that card is very strong.
the other option to Beast, basically.
I wasn't here, so I can complain.
The main reason why I decided these
Fair
as
enough.
my only discard engine, and I don't play any other, is because
But we always do the opposite thing Josh
phase.
says for cards, though. Well, see, sometimes I'm right.
Powerful because it allows
you. Then said Slayer at 40 was low.
You to keep going.
Let's not interrupt.
You're gonna get hand trapped on your first name in the draw phase.
Interesting.
When you activate Sleepy or you activate Pretty. So drawing into more quick plays off the Shadal or the Brow allows you to keep playing in the draw phase, to keep playing around Droll, to make people's Drolls pretty much useless. So that's why I decided to play this engine. For me, playing Snow or playing like the other search cards aren't as good because they don't actually facilitate more plays. Like the Dark World package that like Snow that keeps searching itself just allows you to like if your yellow misses, the extra Snow doesn't do anything in your hand. But Beast and Brow drawing you cards will only draw you good cards pretty much. So that's why I decided to play
kind of agree with that logic. The idea is basically that whenever you discard a Snow for a Purrely spell, you are getting card advantage out of it, but the card advantage is kind of fake card advantage because Snow searching Snow or Brow requires you to spend another card to activate or to get that card advantage to actually draw value from it. You know what I mean? It can be good, but it's like, you know, it's not that useful to just get another Snow to your hand. Basically, drawing a card is better because a random card in your deck is probably better than Snow, right? So drawing in this case is actually better than searching. So I can definitely see myself only wanting to play the ones that when you discard them, draw a card. There's a couple other things that I think are worth noting. I think Volcanic Shell specifically is interesting because it gives you a level 1 monster that you can just normal summon. Like if you don't draw any of your main deck monsters, I think being able to normal summon a Volcanic Shell after you've discarded 1 or 2 and then just normal summon overlay into a rank 1, which some of the rank 1s are pretty good in the deck. Like you can end on Ensemble in certain matchups. That's okay if you play that. You can make a Sylvan Princess Sprite. It can help you make Zeus. Like I think Volcanic Shell being a level 1 is interesting. But other than that, I just think you should play as many of those like just basically draw cards when they get discarded. I'm not sure if I like playing only 2. It's kind of a weird spot where the deck doesn't need them to function. But whenever you activate a quick play spell and you want to discard for it, like it feels so much better to have one of those in hand, right? I mean, I'd rather discard any of those cards than any other card in the deck. So they're not needed for the deck to function, but they are pretty good, right? You could side more for going first. I mean, except against Kashtira, they are also really good when going second, right? Because especially going second, you discard hand traps, and so you're very low on cards a lot of the time. Yeah, you start your turn with like 3 or 4 cards in hand. So having a Dark World to maintain card advantage is really important, especially going second. Of course, they suck against Kashtira because they need to go to the graveyard in this case.
Draw a discard engine more than anything else, and I hope that makes sense. I tried to explain as clear as possible, but it's not that clear. The main reason why I also decided to play okay, so yeah, let me explain Book of Moon. So I decided to play Book of Moon. These were originally Santa Clauses, but I decided to play Book of Moon over the Santa Claus because Book of Moon is technically a Santa Claus against the Kashtira matchup. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, if you Book of Moon and a Rise Heart, it's almost the same thing as Santa Clausing and a Rise Heart. And you can still OTK your opponent with Book of Moon under Happiness. Because Beauty can change face down monsters to attack as well. So Book of Moon actually works really well. But I decided to play Book of Moon over Santa Claus because they've going second. Book of Moon works the same as Santa Claus. But
I think that's wrong for a couple of reasons. I get the explanation. But I think it's wrong for a couple of reasons. I think the logic is flawed here. First of all, you are looking at Book of Moon in its absolute best case scenario, which is against Kashtira, right? Book of Moon is pretty much exclusively good against Kashtira. If you're looking at any other matchup, Santa Claus is a million times better. If you go second against Super Heavy Samurai, have fun with that Book of Moon. If you go second in the mirror match, have fun with that Book of Moon. Like that, it's not good at all. So that is the first flaw in the argumentation. The second flaw is that part of the cool thing about Santa Claus is when you give it to your opponent in defense position is that you can just run into it with your Purrely happiness. Flip it. It's just 2500 defense. You just crash into it. You get the free search, and you start your value chain to get to a big Zeus. Right? You can't do that after booking an Arise Art. You can't attack into an Arise Art that you've booked because it's going to flip it back up, and you're going to be in pain. Right? So that does not work. So a lot of the reasons why people play Santa Claus do not apply to Book of Moon. It does more going first. That is the only argument I see for Book of Moon that I accept for Book of Moon, is that when you go first, the card is better than Santa Claus. But that is not the arguments that were stated, right? That's not what Pax said. It's like going second against Kashtira, it's pretty much the same as Santa Claus. I don't think that's true. But for the reasons I just mentioned.
Going first, Santa Claus doesn't do anything in your hand, whereas Book of Moon does.
That's
if
true.
I Book of Moon my opponent's Soul Piercer, they pack up their cards and they go next every time. Like literally, they go normal summon Soul Piercer, Book of Moon, Soul Piercer. They pack it up. They literally pack it up. They go next. I wish I played 3 of this, to be honest. And also in the mirror match, your opponent like greeds the trap card in the mirror, so you can chain Book of Moon to book their monster in response to their trap, and they don't get to summon the big XYZ. So they just get destroyed in the mirror match. So that's why I have Book of Moon in there. And if you notice, then I played triple impermanence, and the reason why I played imperm over Valor is because I play Princess Sprite. And if you count the numbers of spells and traps in my main deck, I have 7 here plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
29.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16.
Is it?
Plus 16 here. So I have 23.
Oh no, I
spells
counted
or
the
traps
monsters, the Purrely monsters.
Off Princess Sprite, right? Obviously it's a little bit less because you draw 5 cards, but you have about 20 cards that are hittable in your deck, and you can also hit Beast off Princess Sprite and draw a card. So you have 24 cards. So playing more spells and traps actually is really, really good because you're more likely to hit off your Sylvan as well. So that's the other reason why these cards are really, really powerful. So
that's a very small argument, though. I mean, like, if you compare it side by side between, like, how often do you activate Princess Sprite and how often do you draw a card on your opponent's turn, those are not the same. Right? Those are not the same number of times that happens. Like, way more often you will draw a card on your opponent's turn and you want it to be an actual hand trap than you draw a card, then you use Princess Sprite. I think, in general. But, yeah.
and then, so that's why, and Imperm is just, like, really, really good.
So statistically, that argument makes sense. When you make Princess Sprite, having those cards in your deck is good, but whenever you draw a card on your opponent's turn, having those be monsters that you can use immediately is better. And scenario A, Princess Sprite, happens like every other game. And scenario B, drawing a card on your opponent's standby phase, happens almost every single time that you play this deck. So, you know, you would probably just prefer having monster hand traps.
Tactics, Imperm is just like basically like better because you can use in draw phase to in the mirror match. Like draw phasing Imperm is like really good, whereas Valor you can't do that. And now let me explain Kurikara. I guess that's the last piece of non-engine I have. So I guess I can explain that.
9 hand traps seems kind of low. My first thought when I saw Purrely was like, okay, you want to play as many hand traps as possible in this deck. Because you draw cards on your opponent's turn, you want to see as many hand traps as possible, so you play a lot of hand traps. That was my first instinct. The more I'm theorizing about the deck, though, I think that's not the only logic that applies here. Because I think what it also means is that even when you play not that many hand traps, because you draw cards on your opponent's turn, you're still very likely to see enough of them, right? And in this format, if you go second, it can actually be very good to have a card like Kurikara or Talents in your deck, because in certain matchups, they can provide a lot more value than a hand trap. So like I said, I don't agree with the Book of Moons, but I like the fact that we're playing at least some amount of board breaker cards like Talents, Kurikara, maybe Santa Claus. I think some amount of those cards belong into the deck. You need some amount of those cards. You just have to find, I think you have to find the right balance between Purrely cards, hand traps, going second board breakers of sorts, and some discard outlets for your spells to maintain card advantage. I think that's the whole secret and the whole magic of Purrely, is just finding the right ratios between those 4 things. I think everything else does not belong in a Purrely deck. Everything else does not belong in a Purrely deck. It's only those 4, like basically those 4 pillars that belong into a Purrely deck, and having the right ratios between the 4 is, I think, exactly what you need to do.
So the last piece of non-engine is going to be the Kurikara. So the reason why I played Kurikara over Santa Claus, because Book of Moon replaced Santa Claus. But why did I play Kurikara? You might be wondering. Going second into any matchup, Kurikara is ridiculous because it's a level 1 body that just puts itself on the board. And that's really important, because it makes it so that Kurikara plus any of your normal summon Purrelys or any of your spells literally threatens a Zeus on spot. Or against Kashtira, I've literally at the regional against Cash, I attributed 5 of my opponent's monsters, their Fenrir, their Unicorn, their Shangirira, their Diablosis, and their Arisart, and then this is at 9,000. I attack directly for game. That also came up. If you tribute 4, it goes to 7,500, and then any of your Purrely monsters can rank up and then kill them as well. The main reason I decided to play this deck specifically because it has an insane Kashtira matchup, like a ridiculous Kashtira matchup. Like if your opponent goes a Arisart pass, you can activate any of your Purrely spells and choose to not summon, right? And then the Arisart mandatory triggers, and then you just summon Kurikara, and you can pretty much like kill them afterwards as well. Or if
I'd be interested to test that, because my impression of Purrely is that it has a pretty good matchup against everything, but Kashtira is a little bit of a problem, because you cannot beat a Arisart with your engine. You have to rely on non-engine to do it, which I guess is the case for every deck in the format, though, so it's not much worse into... It's not worse into Kashtira than other decks are, but I don't know if it has an I wouldn't call it an insane... I wouldn't call it an insane Kashtira matchup. It's an okay matchup, I think, because it's like... It's kind of like how every deck fares into Kashtira. It's like, you know... out the Arisart and you're good to go, or not out the Arisart and you're doomed. But I don't think that makes it an insane matchup into Kashtira.
not, you put a level 1 on the board. Against like
he has 3 Kurikara, 3 Imp, 2 Book, 2 Talents to beat Arisart. Well, yes, he does, but every deck has that, right? That's not something that is exclusive to Purrely, where it's not the only deck that can play those cards, right? It's like any deck can do that if you want to be better against Kashtira in game 1. It's like a lot of people are doing that. A lot of people are playing Imperms, Books, Talents, Kurikara. Those are very popular cards right now for a good reason. That does not make the deck better than other decks into Kashtira.
Super Heavy Samurai, you can Kurikara their Appaloosa, their Baron, and then bring back their Baron at end phase, and then put up Zeus, and then you have Baron, Zeus, Kurikara, and they just lose.
I think Kurikara is very good against Super Heavy, because you can just start playing into their stuff, and then tribute everything, and that's probably okay.
So yeah, Kurikara is like really insane. Like, and the fact that it's a level 1 is crazy. Like, people don't understand. The fact that it's a level 1 is really, really crazy, because like I said, you get to overlay for Princess Sprite, Nightingale, and Fuko. Like these, and then just make like a Zeus out of nowhere. So like you trade 1 for 1 or 1 for 2 with Kurikara, and then they don't have anything to answer the Zeus afterwards as a result. And it's just game. So that's pretty much the reason for my main deck. I didn't really explain the engine cards because I think you have to play 3 of all of them. So yeah. Anyways, so yeah, so that's pretty much the deck. 40 cards in the main. Yeah, also the other reason why I only play a very small discard engine, like only 2, is because Shifter is in the main deck of a lot of Kashtira players.
Fair enough.
So like having a lot of discard engine is actually really, really bad.
To be fair, under Shifter, it does not matter what you discard for your Purrely spells. Whether you discard a Brow or any other card in your main deck, it does not make a difference. Like, in that sense, they are not better or worse than anything else in your deck under Shifter. Like, if you get Shifted, yes, your Brow is dead as a discard, but it's not like any of your other discards would have done anything, right? Like, if I throw away another Purrely card, if I throw away a hand trap, it doesn't matter. The only thing that does matter is that when you have a non-engine instead of the Brow, you can decide to like keep that in your hand and discard another card, right? And so that's okay. Dangers do work when they're banished. I think there is an argument to play Dangers as discard fodder, but Dangers suffer of another problem. That is that there's no Danger that draws you a card when it's discarded because Mothman doesn't count. So the Dangers will never give you actual card advantage, right? They only facilitate more and more and more discarding. So they will never lead to actual card advantage because you discard a Nessie, you get to search another one. The only cool thing about Dangers is that I think it's nice that you can discard Nessie, search Bigfoot, and then on the opponent's turn, you can activate a quick play spell, discard Bigfoot to destroy a card. I think that's pretty good. Like the fact that you can turn your quick play spells, if you have one left on your first turn that you don't want to use, you can just set it and then discard the Bigfoot. That's pretty cool. You can do the same with Snow into Grapha. Yes, you can do Snow into Grapha, but that does not work against Shifter.
Especially if Shifter's in the main deck. So as a result, I think playing 2 was the perfect number where I'm not going to brick on them. And having only 2, I have 2 good discards, which means at any point I draw these, I can discard and I don't have any dead cards after in my deck. Does it make sense? So, people who play like if they play, I was originally playing like Hedgehog, Beast, Squamata, but if you draw the Beast, the Hog and the Squamata are just bricks in your deck.
Yeah, that's awful. I don't like that because drawing the Beast first invalidates everything. I don't see a reason to do that.
Whereas if I play just Beast and Brow, they're never bricks. They just always gives me a draw, and it's always utility. So, yeah. So that's why I decided to play 1 and 1 of these, and that's it. And it gives me a lot of flex spots, too. Like, it gives me 16 flex spots as a result. So I was really, really happy about that. So that's the main deck. Now, let me go into...
Why not 2 Brow? Because Beast is technically better because it can chain block. Because Beast is not mandatory. Brow is mandatory. So if you activate a quick play spell, discard Brow, summon one of your main deck monsters, the Brow will always be Chainlink 1, and you have to put your main deck monster as Chainlink 2. Whereas with Beast, you can go Chainlink 1 with your main deck monster, Chainlink 2 Beast, and they cannot Ash or Gamma your main deck monster. So Beast is technically always better than Brow. But Beast is once per turn, so that is probably the reason why we're not playing 2 Beast.
So I play for the rank 1s, Fuko, Nightingale and Princess Sprite. I don't play Ensemble. The main reason why I don't play Ensemble is because I think you don't need it. Like, to be honest, like, I always go for a Princess Sprite because I think the +1 off this card is way more valuable. And you can grab Imperm. I can hit a Imperm, a Book of Moon, or a Tactics. So that's the main reason. Someone asked why not Beast and 2 Dark Worlds, because Beast is better than Brow. So I play 1 and 1. I wish I could play 2 Beasts. Beast can chain block Gamma. Brow cannot chain block because Brow is mandatory. So that's why Beast is better than Brow. But you can't play 2 Beasts because Beast is once per turn. For the rest of the extra deck, you play 2 Beauty. You have to play 2 of this. I see people playing 1. You have to play 2 of this. This card is insane. I usually end on double Noir. If you combo correctly, you end on Beauty, the Trap Set, and a Noir. If they out
you can play 2
Noir,
Beasts.
you can
it's not
Beauty
that,
you can use Beauty to import one of the cards and
it's
trap
not that much
on top of Beauty, and you end on double Noir, and then it's just game. Now this people definitely don't play, which is double Happiness.
Bro, I would always play 2 Happiness. I think is mandatory.
This card is the first effect of this card is not once per turn. It is not once per turn.
Happiness is busted.
This card is like really insane. This card is like the reason why this deck is probably actually more broken going second than going first, because this card like against Kashtira,
Happiness and Zeus is the reason why this deck works going second as well. I think like that is the main selling point of Purrely for me, is that it has a very solid plan going first, but a super strong alternative plan going second. Like there's a lot of decks that will just like, when they go first, they have a certain plan, and going second, their plan is just to hand trap or board break your opponent and then just do the same thing that they were going to do when they go first. With Purrely, you have a very good alternative line when you go second, which is like you can Happiness OTK, you can make a fat Zeus. You have like alternative lines that open up when you have a battle phase, and that's really cool.
In Swiss, I cracked this entire board, like put him on nothing, and made a 7-mat and a 6-mat Noir. And it's because of this card. Like, I used Beauties with Pretty underneath, start sucking up all his cards. After negating his Arise Heart, made double Happiness, started attacking, swinging, gaining infinite cards from my deck. And then they just lose. They just put up double Noir after with 6-7 mats each in this game. I played 2 Plum as well. You have to play 2 of all of these. It also plays around Unicorn and Diablosis by playing 2 of all of these, pretty much. Because I realized that when you play 1 Happiness, if your opponent's smart, they Diablosis your 1 Happiness, and you're like in a tough spot. Because Happiness, I've OTK'd my opponent under Shifter with Happiness before. And, yep. Then I played double Noir.
Bro, are these super rares pack? No, they're not.
Needs to be said.
Are they? Mystic Yugioh, thank you for the 5 months. Appreciate that. Thank you so much. Welcome back.
And I played 1 Downerd for ranking up. Double Zeus. 2 Zeus actually comes up. I wish I could fit the 3rd Zeus in. I was originally playing a list with 3 Zeus, but I just can't fit it.
Yeah, the border, it's collectors.
Zeus is really nuts because, like, it's obvious. Like, 1 Zeus is obviously fine, and then you play. A lot of people would play 2 for Unicorn and Diablosis, but for the decks that don't have Unicorn and Diablosis in their what do you call it? In their arsenal. Zeus is actually ridiculous because you can make a 5-mat Zeus. It's very common to make a 5-mat Zeus. I'll show you how. So, like, basically going second, you usually have something like Beauty with something like this. Like Beauty, Pretty, like a yellow, right? Like something like this.
Yellow. To
make this, okay? You then use Beauty to take your opponent's card. Pretty's effect to take your opponent's card. So now you have 4 mats or 3 mats. You attack, and then you make Downerd on top, and then you make Zeus. So you have a 5-mat Zeus. The turn after, you can attack with Zeus again, and make another Zeus on top, so now it's 6 materials. And that is actually really important.
I can see that. Foxy Elemental, thank you for the 3 months. Thank you for your prime. Appreciate you.
And then the last card I played in my extra deck is a card that actually won me my round 1 against Labyrinth, that goes and matched me and skill drained me, and I still won. And it's Protector of the Agent Moon. This card is absolutely insane. It requires 2 fairy monsters, and it contributes itself for cost to target 1 fairy monster and target 1 card your opponent control and destroy it. So my opponent skill drained me and goes and matched me game 1. after winning the dice roll, and I beat him because I had discard in my deck. Because all I did was I summoned yellow into yellow. They're both flight monsters. Use both to make Protector of the Moon effect because it tributes for.
They're like light, fairy. So you can do that against like you can out skill drain goes in rivalry. You can pop the skill drain.
For cost.
Richie Evo, think about it 6 months. I think Labyrinth in an okay spot now because people are starting to disrespect it. But I think people might go back to Spell and Trap Hate after seeing how it's performing. So
skill drain doesn't apply to it, and then it destroys. I destroyed his skill drain. Then the next turn,
Tikibu destroys you. Dude, yeah, okay. There's a floodgate for every deck.
Destroyed his skill drain, and then the next turn, I summon my last yellow from the deck. And then I go yellow into another light monster, which is Happiness. And then attack, gain infinite materials on Happiness. Happiness is the effect when I activate a Purrely Quick Play can bounce, attach it to this card, and then bounce a back row. So I bounce his Gozen afterwards. And then I can also, I mean, even if I don't bounce the Gozen, I can make Zeus, which is also a light monster. So Gozen just didn't do anything. So like this deck has a lot of tools to like beat floodgates as well. At least like those type of floodgates. So, but yeah, so that's pretty much the deck that I played.
I like that. There's a lot of solid theory here. There's a few things that I don't agree with, but for the most part, it's a pretty solid approach to Purrely, I think.